So, as you may already know, Charlie Kirk, a political commentator on the right, was assassinated at a Utah university last week. So, we have this article here from the Associated Press. Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist and close ally of President Trump, who played an influential role in rallying young Republican voters, was shot and killed Wednesday at a Utah college event in which the governor called a political assassination carried out from a rooftop. "This is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation," said Utah Governor Spencer Cox. "I want to be very clear, this is a political assassination." Now, we all know who the shooter is now. There is someone in custody, or at least he's a shooting suspect, Tyler Robinson, and we will be getting into him later on. When the shooting first happened, a lot of people, especially on the right, were very convinced that this was a trans person and that they were a leftist and shit like that. Now we know that's more than likely not the case. Definitely in terms of them being trans, Tyler is not trans. It's still left up in the air what his political affiliation was, but there's a lot of signs to point that he was a groyper, which means that he was very much on the right. But this is what this governor had to say once Tyler Robinson was in custody. The governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, just said, "For the last 33 hours, I've been praying that this person who murdered Charlie Kirk was from another country, that he was not one of us because we are not like that, but it was one of us."
You know, this bad stuff happens. And for 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I hoped for. Just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, "Hey, we don't do that here." And indeed,
I don't think he's saying that he wanted this person not to be an American. I think he's saying he didn't want it to be from someone from Utah. But this is still a fucked up thing to say after someone just got assassinated. Is to say, like, well, I hope someone from our state didn't do it. It's also so weird when it comes to Republicans in response to this, because, like, when it first happened, they had a very, like, vitriolic response to it. They were just like, this is terrible, this is a terrible thing. And then like, thoughts and prayers to his family, and then immediately afterwards they were just like, "It's the left, they're doing this, we got to go after the left." Even Donald Trump made a whole video essentially saying that. As soon as it was revealed that this was a straight cis white guy who did it, who's way more likely to be Republican than not, they immediately were just like, this person, I hope they seek the help that they need. We need to, they were like sugarcoating their messaging for someone that they were like urging the death penalty for before they knew that he was like one of them. And even like the response to the assassination has turned around. Like, again, this is his response to it. And he's just like, I just didn't want it to be some guy from Utah. Even Donald Trump, when he was asked like how he's grieving with the loss of Charlie Kirk, he was just like, "Actually, I'm doing fine."
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Like, as soon as they didn't have a singular person on the left, like, the left is dangerous, we need to hunt these people down. As soon as they couldn't find someone to point that figure to, they immediately started not backtracking on their statements, but they started to be like, this isn't that big of a deal, or at least that's what it feels like. But before the shooter was revealed, a lot of vitriol from the right was the left is like the party of violence, party of dangerous rhetoric. And I feel like some people on the left were trying to overcompensate, like Ezra Klein, who is a New York Times columnist. Like, this is his headline: "In memorial for like a Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way." Yeah, going on to college campuses, yelling at freshmen who have no real understanding of debate, who have never really publicly spoke to the degree that they would have at these events. Like, he chose to go after people he knew were not suited in debate in order to dunk on them. He didn't do it for, trying to bridge the gap between left and right. You could literally see that when it comes to like his YouTube videos. Same with like Ben Shapiro and a lot of these like college debaters. Like, they don't care about like mending the fences, like trying to meet people at the middle. They're just like, we need to dunk on these liberals and leftists. That's it. They just care about like internet points, about trying to make the other side look stupid. They didn't do this in good faith. Like, I've seen so many liberals, not just Ezra Klein, try to do this whole thing of like, he was doing it the right way. He was just opening up conversations. But then we have Elizabeth Warren, who in response to the whole, Dems need to tone, like what it says here, Elizabeth Warren on people who say Dems need to tone down their rhetoric.
Oh, please. Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word.
Like, she's right. If you want to start with party of people who spout dangerous rhetoric, like look at what Donald Trump does regularly. Another thing that the right tried to do when this was all hopping off is they were jumping on people on the left who were not being sympathetic or not being as sympathetic as they wanted them to be, like not having enough empathy. And here's the thing, personally, when it comes to my views on all this, my opinion, I have empathy just on a human level, just as someone who publicly speaks out about their political views, and just from someone who, like, I lost a family member a couple months ago. On that level, I do feel empathy and I am sympathetic of like, there are people who I follow who are political commentators who if this were to happen to them, I would be fucking stricken with grief because I'm a fan of these people. I have a lot of empathy towards his daughters because like they're very young. They probably don't even know what he really does for a living. So they don't understand like the dangerous rhetoric that he spouts openly. So like I feel that like for them, they just lost their dad. That's all they really think of this situation. Like they're little, they don't really understand. Like that's my empathy towards this thing. And also, I think it's just dangerous to like, a political commentator, regardless of which side, can just be openly assassinated. Just in general, that's like, it shows how crazy this country has gotten in terms of its gun control or lack thereof, and how violent our political rhetoric has gotten. And that is due to people like Charlie Kirk, who have normalized this sort of extreme violent rhetoric. After this whole thing, Republicans were trying to point to the left of being like, these people do like, these people spout violent rhetoric all the time, but like they brazenly do that openly. The right. There was even a fucking Fox News reporter recently who said that we should just be able to kill homeless people, essentially.
You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right.
And what a lot of people, in response to this, essentially said is that Charlie himself wouldn't even want you to feel empathetic because Charlie hates empathy. And that's true. This is a clip that has been going around ever since, like, people on the right have been like, you need to show more empathy towards this whole situation.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage.
He hated empathy. There's also been this headline that's been going around since. Charlie Kirk says gun death's unfortunately worth it to keep Second Amendment. So, it's pretty ironic. And I believe, like, even at the time that he was assassinated, he was debating someone else on gun violence. He was trying to contribute the rise in gun violence on black crime. He said gang violence, but like we all know what he means when he says that. It's just a weird situation all the way. Like social media in the last few days has just been a hellhole. Like even people you never really seen talk about politics in any big bad way have all of a sudden like have an opinion on this sort of stuff. Like I've seen people that I used to be friends with, people in my own family who don't commentate on this stuff whatsoever. They were coming out in response to this. And I feel like now that we know who this guy is, the guy who shot him, it's kind of died down. And, there is a reason for that. It's because, again, I feel like if this was someone on the left, if instead of Charlie Kirk, it was like Hassan Piker, Sam Cedar, Cenk Uygur, if it was like Emma Vigeland, if it was someone on the left, this would not, the same people who came out of the woodworks to be like, we need to mourn Charlie Kirk, shit like that, they would not be doing the same thing. They wouldn't. And I feel like the fact that now we know who this guy is and like what side he more likely affiliates himself with, there's a good chance this is the reason why they're not talking about it as much, because now they realize like this is a homegrown issue. So this is a CNN report that is talking about what is publicly known about Tyler Robinson. Growing up in a Utah suburb, Tyler Robinson seemed to be on a promising path. He had a close-knit family, scored well on standardized tests, and earned a 4.0 GPA according to social media posts. After graduating high school in 2021, he filmed a video proudly reciting a letter from Utah State University offering him a 4-year merit scholarship. But Robinson left the state school after just a semester, taking a leave of absence and never returning. The thing that's funny about that is that, again, people on the right have been using this as a way of being like, this is how he was radicalized. He went to a university, he went to college for a semester in a red state and became radicalized enough to try to assassinate a conservative political commentator 4 years later. Now authorities are working to understand what happened in the intervening years that led Robinson to the rooftop where he allegedly gunned down conservative activist Charlie Kirk this week. The brazen murder, the latest in a string of attempted and successful assassinations of political leaders in recent years, has led to anguished recriminations across America's political spectrum. While police are still investigating the killing, authorities have pointed to what they described as anti-fascist messages engraved on bullet cases and a rifle found near the deadly shooting, potential evidence of a political motive. One bullet was inscribed with "Hey Fascist, Catch," a message that Utah Governor Charlie Kirk said Friday speaks for itself. A family member of Robinson's told investigators that the suspect had become more political in recent years and in particular had lashed out at Kirk at a recent family dinner, Kirk said. But the messages on the bullet casings also include a mix of memes and allusions to video games, suggesting a deep immersion in an irony-soaked online world where meanings can be difficult to precisely decipher. Those messages included a series of arrows representing the controls used to carry out an attack in the video game Helldivers 2, and lyrics of a popular Italian song linked to anti-fascist, but also popularized most recently in another game, Far Cry 6, and a Netflix series. Something that I've also seen in terms of like this song that's being referred to here, it's a Bella Ciao, and this comes from Mike from PA, who has been really like deep diving into the connections that this guy more than likely has to the Groyper side of the right. And if you don't know what a Groyper is, it's essentially, I would say, like a chronically online Nazi, and the biggest figurehead of that group, of the Groypers, is Nick Fuentes. What he is bringing up here is, I've seen some millennials saying Bella Ciao being on the casing means that the 22-year-old shooter was a leftist. Here's a mix of Bella Ciao on the Groyper War America First playlist. Groyper War refers to their targeting of Charlie Kirk, and I have seen that. I have seen the Groyper War being used to refer to Nick Fuentes going after Charlie Kirk, because Nick Fuentes, despite also being on the right, does not like Charlie Kirk because he thinks he's too like establishment, like he's too pro-establishment essentially. And it really comes down to that Nick Fuentes is anti-Israel. But even then, it's not Nick Fuentes being anti-Israel. It's just that Nick Fuentes is anti-Semitic, and that's where his criticisms of Israel stem from. Because like he doesn't criticize Israel or hate Israel's influence on America because he thinks that what Israel is doing in Palestine is bad. It's because he just doesn't like Jewish people. But as we see here, we have Groyper Wars, this playlist, and the final song that you'll see down here is literally a remix of Bella Ciao. This isn't concrete evidence that the Bella Ciao reference is a Groyper reference more so than a strictly anti-fascist one, especially since, there was a graving that said, "Hey fascist, catch." But we do have a clip here where Nick Fuentes does criticize Charlie by saying that he is a fascist, but more so a Jewish fascist, because again, he hates that Charlie is pro-Israel.
Well, listen up, left-wing scum. In the second administration of President Donald Trump, Heritage America is back. We're deporting every criminal illegal alien, and we're also going to work to deport anyone that supports Hamas and Hezbollah, anyone that gives support to Iran, and the terrorists, anyone that's anti-Semitic, anyone that denies the Holocaust.
Like, you see how he puts that at the end of it? And here's the thing, he supports the other. He supports deporting immigrants in general. Nick Fuentes does. A big problem that he has with the current administration is that they're not going hard enough. Ironically, I'm very much pro-Palestine, and if you are also pro-Palestine, do not take some of his messaging that might seem pro-Palestine all that seriously, because he just doesn't like Jewish people, and that's it. That's the only reason he is anti-Israel.
And it's like, wait a second, is this the same person? Wait a second, it's like you blink and you miss it. I thought you were white. Now all of a sudden you're rubbing your hands together? Where did that hat come from? Now you have a small hat on your head? This is our country. That's the Trump administration. You're being sold fascism, and then you read the fine print, and it's just Jewish fascism. The fascism is operated by the state of Israel.
So that could be a reason why there was a casing or a bullet that was inscribed with "Hey Fascist Catch." Even then, I feel like he would have added like "Hey Jewish Fascist" or something. I'm not sure. But with like the Helldivers reference, with the Belichick reference, at least it does seem to be some mixed messaging. But when you get into like who this guy was and like the type of person, that Tyler Robinson is, he comes off way more as like a Redditor who would follow someone like Nick Fuentes. And again, it is a bit of mixed messaging. Like, it's not certified proof. It could be coincidence, but it's like it's too hard not to like at least acknowledge that this guy is more than likely a far-right groyper. So like here, this is like his mom who made a Facebook post about Halloween and like the costumes they were going. And when it comes to Tyler, she says he is just some guy from a meme. And then we have this one, which is a Groyper meme. Pepe the Frog is usually used in these sort of Groyper memes. It's just a little... That's the thing. It's a little weird. Like, it's nothing that I feel like you could definitely put like a stamp on of being like, this is what this guy definitely is. But like, there's too many coincidences to be like where all this stuff kind of lines up for it to not be like, okay, he more than likely is a groyper. Like, I feel like the only thing that would certify any sort of proof that he is like if there was any confirmation that he followed or supported Nick Fuentes. People who knew Robinson described differing memories of his political leanings. An electrician who worked with Robinson on a job just a few weeks ago and asked not to be named, like others who spoke about Robinson due to the sensitivity of the situation, described his colleague as a shy presence who wasn't talkative unless he was spoken to. Robinson didn't really talk political unless someone brought it up, the electrician said, adding that he wasn't too fond of Trump or Charlie Kirk. And again, that's not irregular for someone who is a fan of Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes also isn't too fond of Trump nowadays because he doesn't think that Trump is going far enough. And again, he has the same criticism, like even in this video, he doesn't say Kirk by name, but he is talking about MAGA, and an extension to that is talking about Charlie and Trump to a degree. But several years ago in high school, Robinson, like his family, was politically conservative and supported President Donald Trump ahead of the 2020 election, one of Robinson's former classmates told CNN. When I knew him and his family, they were like diehard Trump, said the former classmate. When this happened, I was like, I don't know what changed. Voter registration shows that Robinson is currently registered to vote unaffiliated with any party, although he never cast a ballot, the Washington County clerk said in his statement. And here's the thing, like, his family has very much said, like, we are pro-Trump, we are pro-MAGA all the way, like diehards. And I feel like if there was any sort of left or leftist leaning to this, when it comes to like Robinson's views, it would have been said by now. They said he got more political to the degree that he even like was loudly talking about like how much he doesn't like Kirk recently towards family members. I just feel like the fact that a lot of the evidence shows that he is more in line with like far-right groypers more than leftists in general, it doesn't add up. And the right has been desperate to try to tie this guy to trans people as well, or just like, you know, the left in general. There was like a lie that went around that he was like a DSA member that was quickly debunked. Again, the initial reaction was this guy was more than likely trans, which obviously isn't the case. But now they're bringing up like his roommate that might be trans and also a furry. And they think that like that's evidence enough for him to be like considered far left. But like the weird thing about groypers is that like it's hard to really nail them down when it comes to like their identity and their beliefs as a person, because there are also trans people who are groypers. That's like the weird thing too. It's like they're also like weird about sexuality. Even like Nick Fuentes has said like because of how masculine women have gotten nowadays, you might as well fuck a trans woman. I've seen like that clip go around. Like the thing with like the far right, especially when it comes to groypers, is that like their mindset is so weird that it sometimes contradicts one another to the point where they become like at least some sort of like, you know, like, it's weird. So like even like, oh, his roommate was trans or something like that, it's not like a certified, like it's not legit proof or enough proof to suggest that like this guy was on the left. The former classmate described Robinson as being very, very big into gaming and invested in video game design. Robinson and his friends would spend their lunches playing the card games and all that kind of stuff. Robinson was quiet all the time and a little goofy, the classmate said, adding he didn't remember him from making concerning remarks, making concerning statements, or getting into trouble. He was fun to be around, fun to talk to. He was just kind of shy and didn't open up very much. Now people who knew Robinson are struggling to reconcile with their image of him with the allegations laid out by police. But like it's all a bit weird, because again, I feel like there's so much to show that this guy more than likely was a groyper, but again, we don't have enough evidence. And the thing is that with this current administration, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to hide this. Like if it shows that like if they discover that this guy was essentially just someone who was on their side, but like to the far reaches of their side, they might just try to like downplay this. There was also there was one engraving that literally said, if you read this, you're gay. Like this assassination was a shit post essentially. If you like look at the engravings, it was essentially just someone who was chronically online. This was like a troll. I just don't know. It's really hard to see this as any other thing than a guy who just kind of got lost into the realm of the far right online, who, you know, just didn't see Charlie Kirk as being right enough. Oh, this is like another piece of evidence that like Bella Ciao has been embraced by Nick Fuentes and like the groypers online. There's even someone who uses it in their username. Again, I don't think that's like certified evidence, but it's a coincidence that I don't think can be overlooked. Hello everyone, Editing Fruity here. I just wanted to add a few things at the end here because it's been a while since I've recorded this video, so there's been a lot of new information. I'm not going to go over everything, but I'm just going to do a bit of like a speed run, I guess, through some of the new information, or at least stuff that's happened since I recorded this video. Starting off, the text messages between the shooter Tyler Robinson and the roommate were revealed, and when it first came out, it definitely made me question the groyper claim that I definitely made in this video. However, as a lot of people have pointed out, the text messages feel a little bit off. Now, I'm not going to go into conspiracy theory too much, but it's not irregular in my opinion to say, and we have seen this a lot from people on the right and the left when it comes to these text messages. They don't feel like they're being written by a 22-year-old. Now, there are some stuff that, you know, might fit more into the, you know, Mormon from Utah in terms of like, you know, how he speaks. But like when you get to the part of the text messages where he starts to talk about bullet engravings and how like just the messaging, the word choice that he uses in those text messages, they just seem a bit off. I'm not going to go into detail about them because you probably have already heard about this, maybe. If not, there's definitely people who have talked about these text messages themselves, and they're just a little weird. They just don't sound like a 22-year-old like chronically online guy, especially because now we have seen Discord messages from him and they don't match up in terms of messaging, especially for a guy who's like on the run while he's texting. Like the continuity of the messages don't even line up. But again, that's just, some theories going around. That's just some conspiracies. It doesn't help the case. Again, we don't even really know what this guy's beliefs were. At least from the text messages, it just seemed like he became, at least like pro-trans after, I don't know, like his family said that he was like pro-LGBT. But again, you have to like take into a fact that this is coming from a Mormon, Utah, conservative MAGA family. There's a lot of like ways you can come at this, and I feel like it still wouldn't be surprising to me if he was a groyper. We still don't have that information yet, but from what we have been given in terms of like the information surrounding this guy and what his beliefs were, we haven't been given a lot. It's a lot of like, putting pieces together. Like even like the groyper claim, it comes from, hey, let's like just analyze what he put on the bullets and shit like that. And it does match up with some groyper stuff. But then again, like with the trans roommate, even like if that's true, even then, like I said in the video, I'm pretty sure I said this in the video, groypers can be pretty weird when it comes to sexuality. Like they can be accepting of some stuff. They're a very weird ideology, honestly. It's really hard to pin them down on certain issues, but very much so. Again, we don't know. We don't know for sure. I will say that. And like, again, a lot of my opinion on this has changed because of the text messages, but even then, they don't seem like a reliable source. Like, honestly, some of those text messages do kind of seem like a cop was writing them and was trying to sound like a 22-year-old until he got bored. Because again, once you get to like him talking about, oh, how I was engraving the bullets, it just feels too perfect. It feels like it's wrapping too much of a perfect bow around this without going into specifics. Like even the text messages, it's like, okay, he was in a relationship with a trans roommate, and he didn't like that Charlie Kirk spread hate. But again, it feels too normal. That's the thing. Like for someone to go and do this, they don't have the sort of like normacy that some people would have. Like, yeah, a bunch of people don't like Charlie Kirk and think he spreads too much hate. It doesn't lead them to do this. I don't know. So it's a little weird to see what could be at play. Also, what happened as a result of this is obviously this has been a big topic in America. So a lot of people have been talking about this from, news shows to late night shows. And you probably have already heard Jimmy Kimmel's show is just being canceled essentially, or they're just like not doing it indefinitely for the time being. It's like on a pause maybe, and it's because essentially what Jimmy Kimmel said is that it seems like Trump does not care that Charlie Kirk died. And that's a fair thing to say. And it's like the mildest thing you could say in regards to what happened. Like he wasn't making fun of Charlie. He wasn't, praising the assassination. He was just saying, hey, it's a little weird that Trump doesn't care about this, and not even in a conspiracy way of like, oh, maybe he was behind it. Like, hey, it's a little weird that this top advisor for the Trump administration, Trump himself does not care about it. And then they played the clip of like how one of those reporters asked Trump about how he was dealing with Kirk's death, and he was like, I'm doing pretty well, we're starting construction on the new ballroom. Like, he just did not care. And if you want any more proof of that, here we have a Fox interview of Trump where one of the reporters said, Charlie said there is no such thing as hate speech, and Trump replied he might not be saying that now.
Charlie said, that there was no such thing as hate speech. He obviously, no one anticipated what happened to Charlie, but you have always been...
Like even in like, there could be another way of he's like, oh, he, like with the way that people have been talking about Charlie, that's hate speech or something, whatever. It's just, oh, you could have used better wording than this. It just makes it seem like he doesn't care. And again, like what I was trying to say is that maybe he was trying to say it in a way of like, well, look at the way that people have been talking about Charlie after his death. That's hate speech. I could see him trying to spin it that way, but like, you should word it better because it seems like you don't care. It really doesn't. And like, I don't think he does. I really don't. Like, again, even if you try to spin this clip that way of like, oh, he meant something else, there's still that other video of him being like, I'm doing pretty well. We're starting new construction on the ballroom. Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't. and they canceled his show over that. It's asinine. And I don't even fucking like Jimmy Kimmel. Like, this is not me being like, oh, justice for Jimmy Kimmel. This is a clear example of oppression of the First Amendment. And all these people who claim to love free speech are just like saying that this is well deserved. They should be, I mean, I say they should be scared, but like they don't care because they know their speech isn't going to be prohibited. It's just, hey, if you say anything mean about us, we're going to go after you. It's insane. Hello everyone, thank you for watching today's video. If you would like to see other videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe down below. If you would like to hear me talk about a lot more nerdy subjects such as anime, comic books, video games, movies, and even pro wrestling, you can check out my second channel, The Fruit Basket. And if you would like to see me play video games, I have a channel called FruitySaur Gaming where you can check out those videos there. Anyways, that's all I have for today, and I'll see you all next time.